All right, I'm about to show you 2 phone calls Trump really doesn't want you to hear. And they are so embarrassing. I only have this first one due to a legal proceeding. You can actually hear how pathetic he is begging Brad Raffensperger, the Secretary of State of Georgia, to believe his election lies without any evidence.
I won this election by hundreds of thousands of votes. There's no way I lost Georgia. There's no way. We won by hundreds of thousands of votes. I'm just going by small numbers. When you add them up, they're many times the 11,000. But I won that state by hundreds of thousands of votes. Now, do you think it's possible that they shredded ballots in Fulton County? Because that's what the rumor is. And also that Dominion took out machines. That Dominion is really moving fast to get rid of their machinery.
Sounds legit. He literally says that his evidence is a rumor.
That's what the rumor is.
Now, ignore the fact that lies like this have cost people like Fox News millions and millions of dollars. This phone call goes on forever. And finally, the people from Georgia just say like, bro, you gotta actually show evidence for any of this.
Did it? Or that I'll move back in. You know, it doesn't sound like a very normal. You mean they moved out and what, they missed it so much that they wanted to move back in? Yeah, it's like, it's crazy.
Well, and they moved back in years ago. This was not like something just before the election. So there's something about that data that it's just not accurate.
Well, I don't know. All I know is that it is certified, and they moved out of Georgia, and they voted. It didn't say they moved back in, Clayton, did it?
No, but I mean, we're looking at the voter register. Again, if you have additional records, we've been asking for that. But you haven't shared any of that with us. You just keep saying you've investigated.
But a lot of it you don't need to be shared. I mean, to be honest.
Also, these aren't the droids you're looking for. Think about how pathetic what you just heard is. So there's the President of the United States down by 11,000 votes, okay? And he obviously has like a roll of names. And he's like, well, this family, the Johnsons, may have moved at some point. Ipso facto, I get 11,001 votes. King me. Bear in mind, we still have one more Trump phone call I'm going to play you in a second. But first, in that clip, he is arguing that he thinks a family has moved out of Georgia and is trying to vote in Georgia. Meanwhile, he himself moved out of Florida and was trying to vote in Florida. And all of this he refuses to provide evidence of. And the key thing to focus on is he's trying to get election officials not to certify an election. That is a mandatory thing to do. It's not like discretionary or voluntary or like, do I feel like doing it today? Or am I friends with the person I think should win? Also, refusing to certify an election is like illegal in many states. And I want to say we're lucky that Brad Raffensperger stood his ground, but that's not how luck works. Like, that's just the way it's supposed to be. We're America because people like Brad Raffensperger stand their ground. And that brings me to the next Trump phone call. This is Trump's daughter-in-law, Laura Trump. Laura Trump? I shouldn't make fun of her name. I should make fun of the fact that she married Eric Trump. No offense, but gross. This is a recent robocall on behalf of Laura Trump, where she is spreading lies about the upcoming election security.
We all know the problems. No photo IDs, unsecured ballot drop boxes, mass mailing of ballots, and voter rolls chock full of deceased people and non-citizens are just a few examples of the massive fraud that took place. If Democrats have their way, your vote could be canceled out by someone who isn't even an American citizen. And I'm sure you agree with Co-Chair Trump that we cannot allow the chaos and questions of the 2020 election to ever happen again.
What do you mean the chaos and questions? You mean the chaos and questions that you just conjured out of thin air? I love how the CNN host responds to it.
Just to be clear, obviously those things that she lists off, not the case.
And what's like crazy ironic, actually more evil than ironic, is that she and the GOP are like encouraging people actively to vote early. Also, Trump and pretty much every person in Congress has voted through the mail. This is stuff that they're currently saying is super sketchy, but they're doing it anyway because their goal is not election security. And I would say this if it was the Democrats doing the exact same thing. Their goal is to win. And instead of winning by coming up with policies that most people agree with, or a candidate that most people like, you know, democracy stuff, they are actively chipping away and in many cases trying to absolutely destroy the fundamental underpinnings and infrastructure of our democracy. And here is the absolute timeline and how it works. First, Trump says that the election's gonna be rigged.
We're competing in a rigged election. This is a rigged election, folks.
I think mail-in voting is going to rig the election. I really do. You're sending out hundreds of millions of universal mail-in ballots. Hundreds of millions. Where are they going? Who are they being sent to?
This is just a way they're trying to steal the election.
Then, after he loses, he doesn't provide any evidence that the election was corrupt. In fact, every legal challenge he had was basically just thrown out of court. But he kind of gives away the game the entire time, saying stuff like this.
If you count the legal votes, I easily win. If you count the illegal votes, they can try to steal the election from us.
Yeah, I kind of think by legal votes, you just mean votes for you, and illegal votes, you mean votes for the other guy. And ever since he lost, he and his cronies are just trying to get rid of people like Brad Raffensperger, of people like the election officials in Nevada, where the Secretary of State and the Attorney General had to petition the Nevada Supreme Court to actually compel election officials in a certain county to follow the actual law of the state and certify the election results. Recently, this is not in 2020, this is in 2024. Why? Because Trump has all his people out there lying on his behalf and trying to impugn the integrity of people who are just doing the hard, thankless work of maintaining the peaceful transfer of power in the United States.
Gabe, I do not consider you an expert on this issue. As a matter of fact, I consider you a major problem. For you to say there were no dead voters in Georgia, there was thousands of dead voters in Georgia. And then the other thing is you have constantly shilled for this election, and I'm going to tell you, there was blatant outright fraud in the 2020 election, complete and total fraud, and you know it. You absolutely do know it. And I'm going to follow up with one more thing. Trump won Georgia. I know you don't like for me to say that, but I am convinced that he did.
Oh, you're convinced that he did. Oh, well, in that case, I'm convinced you just have like a big crush on him, judging by how you grope cutouts of him, you weirdo. And again, we're just lucky there's guys like this dude who loves Georgia so much that he's drinking a Coca-Cola right now, which is like the most Georgia thing you can do. But here's the sad, terrifying thing, is like the things I've shown you, that's just what's happening on camera. Behind the scenes, a lot of horrible stuff is happening. Like in a world where the mail-in voter fraud rate is literally 0.00006% over the last 20 years, there are many people out there that are very high up in government who are spreading lies and conspiracy theories that they have never, ever substantiated in any meaningful way, much less in a court of law. Like here's Paul Gosar from Arizona and a CNN host completely destroying him.
Folks, if it's what I've been told, and I had people come to me early hours of the day after, from the Security Exchange Fraud Department to the CIA Fraud Department, that between 450 and 700,000 ballots were altered in the state of Arizona.
First, the CIA Fraud Department. Not a thing. Doesn't exist. He just made that up. If it did exist, safe to say it wouldn't come to Paul Gosar.
But not every news organization rebuts these false claims. There are people in Trump's echo chamber on the news who amplify them.
Right now, Joe Biden is pretending to be the president-elect. They know they haven't won this thing fair and square.
The machines can be hacked. There's no question about that. Their machines can be hacked.
The president's lawyers alleging a company called Dominion, which they say started in Venezuela with Cuban money.
And that there's a Biden order, executive order, which allows illegal immigrants and felons to vote.
Now, obviously, that is made up. But the message is already out there, and lo and behold, Trump supporters say stuff like this.
If he were to lose again, what would that mean for the country, in your opinion?
You mean if President Trump was to lose for the first time? He's never lost a presidential election.
If Vice President Harris were to win this election, would you accept that result?
No. I'm not going to move to another continent, but just watch out, man. We're in trouble. So.
And if Trump were to win the election, would you accept that result?
Absolutely.
I have lost virtually all faith in our electoral system of how badly and how poorly things have been run with your voting machines, with, Dominion voting. Those are hackable voting machines. It's been proven. That's horrifying.
If Trump wins, will you accept that result?
Yes.
If Vice President Harris wins, will you accept that result?
No. No, because I won't believe it's possible.
And that's stuff. Like, I've said a lot of jokes along the way, but that stuff leads to January 6th, where the President of the United States attacked election certifiers in a bunch of states politically, and his supporters looked to attack the certifiers of the election in D.C. quite literally. So in closing, what do? You have to reach out to your election officials, your Secretary of State, everybody responsible for certifying the election. And you have to remind them what their goddamn job is. Remind them, your friends, and anyone who has doubts that there are actually systems in place that allow you to address problems that come up when administering an election. But refusing to certify the election, that is not one of them. All right, thanks for listening. I'm Brett, and we'll see you next time.